Hello there, sword friends. Today I'm going to tell you about this right here. This is the staff from Black Myth Wukong. And before I get into the video, a couple quick disclaimers. One, this is a review sample sent to me graciously by the folks at Swordier, so tip of my hat and special thanks to them at the start for sending this my way. No, I didn't spend any money on it. If you think that makes me biased, you know at the start. You should also know, if it makes a difference to you, that I requested this. Black Myth Wukong is a popular video game going on right now, and I saw that Swordier makes this heavy, big, real staff, and I requested one to review, and they, again, graciously sent it. But do know that they didn't ask me to do it. I actually requested that they send the sword or the staff over, swords on the brain, and they graciously did. But anyway, if that makes a difference to you, you know at the start. The other bits that you should know is that I don't know how to use this staff. I do study a style of swordsmanship that includes some bow techniques in it as well. So I have a familiarity with the bow, but not the way the character in the video game moves it, and it's just very, very different. Not to say it isn't based on a martial art, just not one that I happen to study. Though I don't know that any human being has really a reference point for this. This is a very heavy staff, which I'll talk about later in the review, but I don't know that any human being has a lot of experience in wielding this behemoth of fun. The other bit that you should know is I haven't at this point played Black Myth Wukong, not to say that I won't, but it's a style of game that is just not quite for me. I like old man games that don't require a lot of dexterity. The Dark Souls, the games that require some twitch and reflex and skill, they're just beyond me. It used to be a style of game that I played a lot. The last one that I think I played like that I stuck with was The Witcher 3. It's been a hot minute for me. It's not to say I won't. It looks amazing, and I'm happy that the game is seeing so much success, and but I haven't played it. So if I seem like I don't know what I'm talking about, it's because I don't know how to use it, and I haven't played the video game it's based on, but I do think it's cool, so I guess listen to me say things out of my mouth. Anyway, with all that said, I'm going to move on with the review part. So the first thing to talk about is I actually have two things that are staffs, and I'll talk about the smaller piece later, but calling up front, I have the Swordier Black Myth Wukong Sung Wukong's Weapon Ryu Jing Bu Bang Light Replica. I'm messing up the name, but I have this long name right here. This staff, the light up option, which is the one that I happen to have, is $689. I don't know if that includes shipping. If it doesn't, then it's probably going to be a lot. There's the non-light up version, which is slightly less expensive. Then there's also this additional piece that I have, which is a figurine, the Swordier Black Myth Wukong figurine Celadon set brass. Anyway, it's a little Black Myth Wukong figure made out of celadon, which is a type of pottery or ceramic or porcelain or something like that made in Longquan, China. So Longquan is really famous for making swords and pottery. And I was very familiar with the sword side, not really any idea about the pottery side. So I'm kind of glad to see this little holder that ties together two famous crafts from this city that I've had a lot of fun with swords from. If you're interested in that, that's the aspect that I really enjoyed, which I guess is a bit of a spoiler. But anyway, this thing is $100, and it comes with a little knife in a side of like a Wukong looking staff or scroll. And then they make a different version that's about the same price that has like the little Wukong staff in it. Anyway, do know that it's $689 for the staff I'm talking about, and then $100 for the other thing I'm going to talk about. Moving on to the staff first, the kind of most interesting part of this review. Well, I can tell you the aesthetic side of things. So there is the large brass cap that goes on the end. These screw onto the end, so when you assemble them, both ends can unscrew. One end contains the battery compartment and the switch element or the switch fixture that allows you to turn on and off the light up feature. But both of these will just basically screw onto the aluminum pipe. The shaft I'll talk about in a minute, but these large brass figures or the large brass heads are hollow, but the brass appears to be reasonably thick. I don't know exactly how thick, but enough to put the weight of this staff supposedly at 17 point something pounds. Now, my scale goes up to 12 pounds, so I have to find an accurate way of measuring it, and I haven't at this point. But I will put accurate measurements in the description down below. It says 17.5 pounds. I don't know how accurate that is, but I can tell you that it feels like 50. So I'm guessing it's a little bit more, but maybe I'm just being a baby about it. It is a very heavy thing, and I can see why these large brass pieces that go at the end are quite thick, and they're quite large, and they're quite heavy. It came in a display case kind of thing, separate so that it could be a little bit shorter. Likely that saves on the shipping side of things. And the display case kind of bows a little bit under the weight of this staff, which is a little bit funny, but imposing and kind of cool at the same time. So there's a dragon pattern that runs around. The ends of the staff don't have a lot of detail on them. And this is one thing that I like and don't like. So part of me says, like, I kind of wish that the end of the staff had something on it. I don't think it does in the video game. Also, I think if you were to display it, if you set it on anything, it would poke the floor and probably have some adverse effects, or at least potentially would. Anyway, it seems to represent pretty closely what I see in the video game. The video game, I suppose, depending on your render settings, this one looks like a mid-level quality. I imagine if you put the detail on ultra, some of the dragon details and this and that might be a little bit more intricate than is what is portrayed on this staff. But for what you're getting for this large cast that is probably done in low volumes, I think it's actually pretty clean and nice. The screw-on portion is also tight. It doesn't leave a lot of scratches, and it covers up the spot where the pipe basically meets the threading. And so I would say it aesthetically looks pretty good. The shaft has a light up component. One face of it lights up, the other face does not. The button is on the face that does not light up. So if you want to have it look cool, you're not going to see the red button sticking out. And I did find that the button on the shaft doesn't stand out in a particularly odd place. So in the event that I am pressing buttons and doing dumb things, it doesn't catch on my hand and turn off or on or anything like that. I didn't find it to be too problematic. The shaft, though, is on the thinner side. So I would say I'm kind of impressed at the ergonomics of it. I thought I'd be irritated by catching that button on my hand. I was not. The lettering is also recessed. So they're cutouts, and there's some sort of light strip or something like that inside that is diffused and made consistent in terms of its light output around those little letters as they stagger and turn on. I thought my fingers might get caught on those or that it would be uncomfortable. It wasn't. It was actually quite comfortable, but the shaft is on the thinner side. So in terms of this as a functional weapon, the staff is not as robust. It's an aluminum pipe as I understand, but it doesn't seem to have the thickness that that you might want to have if you're going to use this for like some sort of stage play, or if it's going to knock in anything. Basically, I think the pipe is going to get dented and it's not going to hold up forever. It's not that it's dainty, but it also doesn't seem as resilient as you might hope a weapon would be. And I suppose that kind of brings me to the usage side of things. There's not a whole lot to report here, but I do see this like, hey, it's a metal pole. It's got, large brass caps on the end, and Wukong in the game is, beating the hell out of monsters and stuff. So is this a functional piece? And the answer is no, but kind of. I brought it out there and I tried it on a few things. One, I tried to swing it on a water bottle and I hit my stand first. And then I hit the water bottle and yeeted it out of the scene. Then I brought out a frozen container of like broth or something like that. It wasn't, well, the broth was gone. I filled it up with water and then I froze it and I hit that. And so the staff really didn't do a whole lot of anything in terms of usage. I moved it around, I twirled it, but it hadn't been dropped, it hadn't been mistreated. And I hit my stand, I hit a water bottle, and then I hit a frozen jug. And in that, the staff cracked. So the crack was not present when I started the filming. Afterwards, it was. I looked at it, I thought maybe the end was bent or something like that, which wouldn't be crazy for, brass that maybe gets thin in a spot, or, it's not a particularly hard metal. And I know the shaft doesn't go all the way through, it's screwed on and it's hollow. So, not saying that it should be solid, because then this probably would really weigh 50 pounds or 100 pounds or something like that. But nevertheless, I looked at it. It wasn't bent. There is a large crack in one of the ends. It doesn't go all the way through, but it likely would. If I continued striking with this, it's going to break pretty quickly. And so that tells me this is probably not functional. Now, I went back to the folks at Swordier, and I looked on the website. There is nothing that says like it's functional and made for use. At the same time, if I were a buyer and I saw a metal shaft, it's got brass on the ends, I would think it's solid. It's 17 pounds. You're probably going to assume functional. Unfortunately, it is not. Now, don't get me wrong. Making one of the ends break off may make it actually more lethal and more wieldable. You probably have a more effective club at the end of that, but nevertheless, I don't think anyone actually wants that to happen. And if you're expecting it to be a particularly durable thing, unfortunately, that is not the case. Speaking of moving it around, as you may have noticed in the whacking things part, I look clumsy. I tried moving this around the way I move a bow staff around, and I can't. It's ludicrous to move around. It is very heavy. If you start doing any kind of twirling, it quickly feels like it's going to twirl away with you, like you're trying to, grab the lawnmower blade as it's in motion. Like it's scary once it gets going, because it doesn't really want to stop. It's kind of easy to tweak things to hurt your shoulders. Now, I'm not a small guy, but moving this around is still not particularly fun for me. It's imposing and scary, but at the same time, like not actually fun to twirl around. So if you're going to do like a cosplay, if you're going to go out and have fun, if you're going to show this to your friends or bring to a show, this is a pretty heavy thing to lug around with you, and you can't do kind of cool twirly things. And I believe Swordier makes like a resin one or some sort of foam one that may be a better solution if that's the kind of thing that you're looking for. Now, that kind of brings me to the end of this video, or at least the end of this particular section on this product. The piece itself is really quite handsome. I like the way it looks, and if it's sitting there, it looks really cool. If I lean it up against the wall, it looks really nifty. There are some concerns though. It looks good. I like that it lights up and it doesn't like fall apart immediately, but if you use it, it's going to degrade pretty quickly. Even on like water bottles. Now, hitting the stand, hitting a frozen jug is not nothing. At the same time, like Wukong is bashing monsters, and this is basically a large piece of metal. At 20 pounds, I thought it would hold up a little bit better. I'd be able to hammer things or hit things with it a little bit more. So I don't think it's not going to hold up to those kind of things, but it does look really cool. At the same time, I'm kind of curious, like, who is this for? And I recognize I haven't played the video game. If I did and I loved it, I'd be happy something like this exists, but you're spending about $700 to get this item, and it is heavy, too much to really move around or do anything kind of fun with. It's not durable in the sense that you can use it. It looks really cool, but the looks are also tempered by a couple things. One I mentioned, and that is that it's heavy. If you display it upright and it falls over, it's kind of like a sledgehammer hitting your floor, right? So it will crack your tile, it will ding your floor, and I don't really have a great place to put it. The end is also round, so if you're putting it on like hard surfaces rather than a carpet, it can move around. And if you find a staff display case, often those aren't meant for such top-heavy items. So if you kind of push it, basically if you display it upright, you're going to want to secure it to the wall with the same kind of like secure things that you use to hold bookshelves from tipping over if kids climb on them and stuff, because it could tip over and it would be like getting hit in the head with a 10-pound sledgehammer, which would be suboptimal to say the least. So displaying it kind of carries some risk potentially. Now, if it's on carpet, if it's leaned up against the wall, it's not as flattering a way to display it, but it's probably not going to roll over and hit anyone. Nevertheless, you do have like effectively a 10-pound sledgehammer kind of waiting to tip over. So know that, I guess, going into it, or devise perhaps some sort of stand solution that is secure and not going to tip over and fall and hurt anyone. The other bit is I mentioned that it could damage your floor or crack your tile. What if you have carpet or you're not concerned about your furniture or children? Well, the brass, which I didn't mention before, the blackening on it, if I grab those with my hands, the blackening agent comes off on my fingers a little bit. Now, it's not terrible, and I would imagine with a little bit of cleaning, it would probably come off. But this is like a $700 item, so I'd rather not get dirty when I hold it straight out of the box. I think Swordier could do a little bit more to buff off the compound or the blackening solution so that it doesn't come off when you're handling the object, or spray a little bit of clear coat on it since it's not meant to hit anything anyway, and then the blackening stuff probably wouldn't come off so much. So that is the other thing. It could stain your carpet or something like that. If it's wet in particular and then tips over, it could leave some residue or something on the carpet. So that makes me question, why is this thing? It's very heavy. You can't move it around. It wouldn't be fun to bring to a show or cosplay. Not that Swordier doesn't make something that would be good for that, because they make a resin version. So maybe you can have both. Get the super solid brass one, get the other one. Now, if you're doing like a photo op, if you're doing this cool display, I can see why you would like this. I have often considered spending thousands of dollars on a replica Inigo Montoya rapier because I love the film The Princess Bride, and having a really nice replica of one of those swords kind of tickles my fancy. Even if it's like screen accurate and it's not particularly a great sword or rapier or representation, it's still really cool to me. So I can understand why somebody would want, even if it's not super functional, a really cool interpretation of Wukong staff if the game was really meaningful and special to you. At the same time, for everyone else, I'd be cautious. It's not a particularly fun thing to move around. It looks really cool for display, but the display side of things is I'd have to urge caution. I keep it with my swords rather out by other props and fun display things. And you can get dirty and you can't really use it for like Hulk smash. So with all that stuff said, I don't necessarily think that $700 is really a bad deal. I've said a lot of negative things about it, but In moving it around, it reminded me of swinging a sculpture. Some time ago, sword friend Matt, donor of the Croquet Stake of Doom, said about a different sword that he felt like he was swinging a sculpture. And that's kind of what this feels like to me. It doesn't feel like it's meant to move, fluidly or be a great weapon. It's meant to represent something in the video game. And it doesn't seem like there's a lot of people making, well, at least very robust versions of that. So the light up version on here that represents the kind of staff and how the character's illuminated in the media, as well as being heavy and real and like feeling like something that's substantial in your hand, is pretty cool. I would like it to be more robust, and I would think that would justify the weight a little bit more if you could kind of Hulk smash with it. But without that, it's still a unique piece that is from a video game, and I can see why it would be cool as a sculpture, as an art piece, as a thing to show your friends and be like, check out this freaking awesome thing from the video game. So in that way, it's 20 pounds of fun. But as if it isn't super resonating with you, if Wukong isn't just a video game that you love to pieces, then this is a lot of money for something that I kind of question the logic behind. Now, in contrast, the other piece that was sent to me by Swordier is the Celadon little monkey figurine along with the staff. Now, I'm not a huge fan of basically the look. I haven't played Black Myth Wukong. If I had, this is a much more easy to display homage to the game. The figurine features the Celadon stuff that is made in Longquan, which I find really cool. I told you why in the beginning. It also features a blade. It's not super useful, but it's kind of neat, and it's hidden inside of the staff. And the staff or scroll-looking compartment thing rests pretty nicely in the Celadon figurine, and it displays nicely, and I'm not super concerned about it. And my kids can't see the knives, so they don't want to pick them up and poke things with them. So I think the figurine is actually kind of cool. For $100, it doesn't seem unreasonable. It comes with metal work from Longquan as well as Celadon, and seeing the two combined is actually pretty neat for me. I also like the display case that it came in. It has a nice presentation. It's not something I generally appreciate in sword boxes, but I could see if somebody really liked Black Myth Wukong and was interested in some of the other nuances of Chinese culture, the Celadon, and like having something that features the like two traditional craftsmanship works from Longquan China is I don't know, pretty interesting to me. So for $100, I think you get an interesting piece here. It's not overly special, but I think they did a solid job designing it, combining those two things, and then presenting it as well. It comes in a nice gift box. Sword friends, that is the extent of the useful content that I have, but I do have two follow-up questions that I'd ask you to answer in the comment section down below. One, how close to the video game do you think the staff and the little figurine come? Do you think they represent the game well? I haven't played it, but that would be a major part in my decision-making on if I were to buy something like this. And given my lack of experience, I'd appreciate the community feedback there. I think it looks reasonably accurate, but maybe I'm totally off the wall. And I think the figure represents Wukong. Maybe it's not in the game. Maybe it is, honestly, but it looks similar to me. Maybe I'm off on that, and I'd appreciate feedback. The second part that I'm curious about is if I'm a grouchy old man here. I've kind of noted that this is maybe a slam dunk to a diehard fan who isn't dissuaded by spending $700 on a robust weightlifting staff. But for everyone else, it's questionable. It doesn't seem super durable, and while it might be very accurate and very large and kind of uncommon among the other things that are made in terms of it actually being a large and heavy full-size piece, at the same time, I'm just wondering if I'm missing who might be interested in this outside of diehard fans. So I've noted my criticisms. I'm not looking for a negative fest, but if you want to go and buy one, what are the reasons that are compelling you to go get it? Because I feel like I'm missing something here, and I want to like it because video game stuff is cool. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Hopefully you have found it interesting. Thanks to the folks at Swordier for sending these my way. It's been really fun to play with and experience. I hope I get a chance to check out more video game, more movie type stuff. So anyway, that's all I got. Cheers, and thanks for watching.